Hey, there's something I need to tell you. I'm sorry, but can you listen? I've met someone else, and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. So, could you please divorce me? The wife is stunned by her husband's sudden words. Their daughter's university entrance exams are approaching, and it's a crucial time. She wonders why such a topic has come up now. The wife couldn't simply answer yes to his request. The husband continued with his words, saying, "A woman has joined my company. She is my first love from the past." What will be the wife's choice from here on? What action will the wife take after this? Please watch until the end. I am Flora, currently 40 years old, living with my husband Mike and our high school senior daughter Angel. My husband is 6 years older than me and works as a company employee. I am also a full-time employee, and we both work to support our household. I have a high school diploma, while my husband graduated from a prestigious university. I have always had a complex about my educational background. When our child was born, I strongly felt, I want to send this child to university. I don't want them to go through the same struggles as I did. Fortunately, I have savings from my single days, so I can use them to send my daughter to university. My daughter is also a high school senior, working hard on her exam studies. It has been 20 years since I got married to my husband. Such peaceful everyday life was shattered in an instant, and it all began with something so trivial. At a certain point, my husband started fiddling with his smartphone excessively. "Are you ready for dinner?" I would call out to my husband, but he wouldn't come out of his room easily. "Dad's probably just playing with his smartphone as usual," my daughter would remark, exasperated by my husband's behavior. "Let's go ahead and eat without him. I wonder if Dad has started playing smartphone games?" To think that my husband would be so absorbed in his smartphone. He hadn't been using it that much before. And lately, he often seems to not be listening to what I'm saying. He's at home either tinkering with his smartphone or just zoning out during other times. What could be wrong? Is my husband tired? I thought to myself. One day, when I was thinking like that. Hey, I have something to tell you. I'm sorry. Can you please divorce me? I've met another woman, and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. My husband said suddenly. I couldn't simply agree to divorce upon such a sudden request from my husband. I was surprised and couldn't close my open mouth in astonishment. Moreover, our daughter is in a crucial period preparing for university entrance exams. My husband started speaking to me in a serious tone. "A woman has joined my company. She's someone from my past, my first love." According to my husband, his first love, Molly, has joined his workplace as a temporary employee. My husband was surprised to see his high school first love joining the company. When my husband asked her, she mentioned that she had recently gone through a divorce. My husband said that he wanted to support her since she was divorced and raising her child on her own. I knew that my husband had a first love, but that was a story from many decades ago. Now, he is also the father of our daughter and my husband. My husband is betraying me by divorcing me to support his first love and her child. How selfish can he be? Of course, I was extremely angry about my husband's actions. In front of me, my husband was bowing his head and saying, "If we get married, I want to be the father figure for that woman's child too. So please, I'm begging you, divorce me. I'll give you this house." I was left speechless by my husband's sudden confession, unable to utter a word. Just then, our daughter returned home from her cram school. Seeing the unusual atmosphere, our daughter, who had just returned, asked, "Mom, what's going on?" Unable to speak due to shock, my husband proceeded to explain the situation to our daughter. After hearing everything, our daughter's face turned red with anger. She exclaimed, "What are you saying? Is this about cheating? Dad, you betrayed both me and Mom by cheating, right?" No. Molly is raising her child alone and seems to be struggling. I can't bear to see her like that. If there's anything I can do, I want to help her. When I told her that, she smiled happily, my husband said, as if he was indulging himself, saying these absurd things with a serious expression. At that moment, my daughter exclaimed, "This is ridiculous. What do you mean by anything I can do? Dad, do you even understand what you're saying? You're abandoning Mom and me to go to that woman, aren't you? So, what happens to us? If you and Mom get divorced, we'll become a single-parent household too, right?" My husband, seemingly unaware of what my daughter was angry about, casually said, "I want to live the rest of my life with her." Hearing his words, I couldn't help but feel pathetic. Even I, as a mother, couldn't help but cry and argue with my husband, saying, "You're her parent, and yet..." Seeing that, our daughter, her face flushed with anger, glared at her father and said, "I don't need a father like you," and then she stormed off to her room. After that, we had several more discussions, but my husband's feelings didn't change. My husband offered to pay child support and compensation in a lump sum, and he also said he would give me this house. The house is in my husband's name, and the mortgage has been fully paid off. My husband is adamant about getting a divorce, and I'm just exhausted from trying to talk things out with him. I can't continue this marriage with a man like this. And so, I have decided to divorce my husband. My daughter also said, "We don't need a man like that. From now on, I'll be the one to support Mom." The next day, my husband left the house. At that time, he sent a text message saying, "I've submitted the divorce papers at the city office." With such a short message, our long married life came to an end. Now our daughter is going to college. While I have savings from my single days, I still feel uncertain about the future with just my salary to rely on. However, our daughter took action in this situation. She consulted with my in-laws. They seemed quite surprised by her words, unaware that we had divorced. Upon hearing the details of the divorce from our daughter, my in-laws were furious. "What is he doing to our precious granddaughter? And on top of that, raising a child who isn't even his own? What kind of son is he? We will take responsibility and support you financially until you graduate from college. What's this about his first love? Abandoning his own family? What on earth is he doing?" And in their fury, my in-laws decided to cut ties with my ex-husband, who seemed to have lost his senses due to his infatuation. In this way, my daughter could approach her university entrance exams with a sense of relief, and I was comforted to hear that. For the next 6 months, my ex-husband, who said he wanted to live with his first love, left us behind. After that, my daughter and I lived peacefully as a family. I had finished work that day and was doing household chores at home. At that moment, I heard a familiar voice from behind me, saying, "I'm home." It was the voice of my ex-husband. When I turned around, there stood my ex-husband. I was genuinely surprised. "What's for dinner tonight?" "I came back because I wanted to eat your cooking after a long time. What is this man saying? Upon closer look, my ex-husband appears worn out and like a completely different person. Unexpectedly, my ex-husband, who had left, suddenly showed up. He was acting as if nothing had happened, and I couldn't contain my anger at his behavior. What are you doing here? Why are you here? That was the best I could muster to say to him. However, it seemed that my words didn't bother him at all. He sat down on the living room sofa as if it was his right to be there and said, "Hey, that's some rude way of talking. Remember, I'm the one who built this house. Whenever I decide to come back, it's my right, isn't it?" He waved the house key in front of me. Seeing that, I regretted not changing the house locks. But of course, the ownership of this house is in my name now. What is he talking about? I thought he wouldn't come back again since he left so easily. However, why is my ex-husband, who should have gone to be with his beloved first love, here? Right now, the most important thing is to get him out. My daughter will be back from her cram school soon. I have to get him out before that. That's what I thought. Listen, this is my house now. Don't you have any decency to leave? You have no right to be here. I confronted my ex-husband with cold words. As I said that, my ex-husband buried his face and began sobbing uncontrollably. What he told me afterward was something I never expected. Well, in reality, my ex-husband confessed, after submitting the divorce papers, he immediately went to be with his first love. It seemed like he had envisioned a rosy future ahead. For a while, he lived happily like that with his first love. However, Molly didn't rush into marrying him again. She simply said, "Let's wait until things settle down in our lives," and didn't proceed with registering their marriage. At that time, when my ex-husband tried to make a purchase with his credit card, he found out that he couldn't buy anything because the credit limit was maxed out. At that point, my ex-husband checked his passbook and realized that his bank account had been emptied, leaving it with a balance of 0. Furthermore, it was revealed that Molly had been accumulating debts in my ex-husband's name, repeatedly borrowing money. Naturally, my ex-husband confronted Molly about this, and she responded with, "I never said I would marry you. You just misunderstood on your own." And astonishingly, Molly revealed that she was already in a relationship with another man. My ex-husband consulted with a lawyer about taking legal action against the woman. However, there were no documents confirming the promise of marriage. Additionally, my ex-husband had given the woman his credit cards and bank books, allowing her to use them for living expenses. Furthermore, even after observing their interactions, there were no words from the woman indicating a desire for marriage. The matter seemed quite complicated, and it was said by the lawyer that it would likely take a considerable amount of time. So, I ended up drowning in debt. Please, Flora, help me out. I see, is that what happened? Hearing about my ex-husband's dire situation, I couldn't help but almost burst into laughter. In the end, my ex-husband was just deceived by his first love. And besides, don't you still have feelings for me? My ex-husband pleaded with me. Thank you for divorcing me, I said to my ex-husband with a smirk, feeling a sense of satisfaction. After all that he's done, how can he possibly believe that I don't despise him? I couldn't fathom my ex-husband's mindset. You're not someone I rely on anymore, so could you just leave already? I think you should understand by now, but this is my house. However, no matter what I said, my ex-husband wouldn't listen. He just sprawled out on the sofa and started watching TV. I'm home. At that moment, our daughter came back home and saw her father in the living room. She looked surprised by his presence. Hey, how are you doing? How's your university entrance exam preparation going? My ex-husband casually spoke as if nothing had happened, but our daughter's face turned red with anger, clearly annoyed by his familiarity. My daughter snapped back at my clueless ex-husband. What's with you? Suddenly showing up out of nowhere? You and Mom got divorced, so you're a stranger now. You're not part of this family anymore. Why are you lounging around here like it's your own house? You're such a weirdo. My ex-husband, getting redder in the face, retorted to our daughter's words. Hey! What kind of language is that to use towards your parents? Go back to your first love's place. You left us because you wanted to be with that woman, right? Our daughter exclaimed angrily. At that moment, a voice came from behind. What's going on? I thought it was noisy. Turns out, there was an unexpected guest, huh? The person who appeared at this house was Mr. Dawson, my ex-husband's immediate superior. Why did Mr. Dawson, who is both his boss and senior, come to his house? My ex-husband probably can't understand it. My ex-husband said, what's going on? I'm going to reveal everything here. Well, you see, Mr. Dawson actually attended our wedding. He's my ex-husband's immediate superior at his company. After my divorce from my ex-husband, I happened to run into Mr. Dawson in town. So, Mr. Dawson and I had a chat right there. Sorry for the trouble, Mr. Dawson said, bowing to me. I hurriedly stopped him. So, I entered a nearby cafe and decided to hear what Mr. Dawson had to say. Apologetically, he began to speak. It seems that Molly was targeting your husband and entered the workplace with that intention, he said. Huh? What do you mean by that? That Molly entered as a temporary worker and stuck to your husband from morning till night. As you know, our company has very few female employees. So such behavior would stand out. There were already unfavorable rumors circulating about the two of them, which is why you ended up divorcing. If I had known Molly was targeting your husband, I wouldn't have allowed her to join, Mr. Dawson said with a regretful expression. It seems that my ex-husband's mental age regressed to his first love days. My ex-husband, who was immersed in a romantic relationship, probably acted according to her instructions. However, it was comforting that Mr. Dawson was concerned about me like this. I replied, "Thank you for your concern." I was deeply hurt when my husband abandoned me out of the blue. Knowing that there are people like Mr. Dawson who care about me and my daughter, even though we're on our own, gave me strength. After that, I continued to maintain contact with Mr. Dawson. According to him, the woman he had talked about earlier was eventually forced to resign before the renewal of her temporary employment contract came up. Furthermore, Mr. Dawson continued to treat my daughter and me to meals, and in return, I would express my gratitude by preparing homemade dishes and giving them to him in Tupperware containers as a gift. Mr. Dawson is a bachelor. He had been married once before, but his wife passed away due to illness many years ago. Mr. Dawson cares deeply for my daughter and often says, "If I had a child, they would be around her age, I suppose," with a warm smile. "Surely, if you were my daughter, I'd be bragging about you to everyone at work," Mr. Dawson says with a smile. "Hey Mom, Mr. Dawson seems like a nice guy. Why don't you consider remarrying?" my daughter suggests. It was at that moment when Mr. Dawson unexpectedly invited me to dine out, and in the quiet private room of a traditional Japanese restaurant, he proposed to me. He said, "It hasn't even been a year since your divorce, but as I shared meals with you and your daughter, I realized how wonderful family can be. If it's okay with you, I'd like to become a part of your family circle." Overwhelmed with joy, I tearfully said yes. With that in mind, we are planning to register our marriage soon. We plan to have a small wedding ceremony as well. Surprising my ex-husband, Mr. Dawson said, "Flora and I are getting married, and your daughter is in favor of it. I even plan to adopt her as my daughter." My ex-husband was utterly shocked. It's likely that at his workplace, he is being ignored due to his involvement with that woman. It seems like my ex-husband had no knowledge of the situation with Mr. Dawson and me. "This can't be. Don't tell such a bad lie. Even if you're my senior, I'll get angry." My ex-husband shouted angrily at Mr. Dawson. However, at this point, our daughter stepped forward. "Are you kidding me? You abandoned Mom and me, and now you want to act all high and mighty? After you left, Mr. Dawson has been nothing but kind to us. Can you even think of one good thing you've done for us? It's pathetic that you want to come back to the family you abandoned. Don't you realize?" Despite everything our daughter told him, my ex-husband still didn't know when to give up. He tried to hold our daughter's hand and said, "But I'm still your father." My daughter immediately exclaimed, "Don't touch me, you old pervert," and brushed his hand away. My anger erupted at my ex-husband. "Don't joke around. You're the one who left because you wanted to live the rest of your life with your first love, right? We're human beings too. Do you think we'll just go along with whatever you say? You're being way too self-centered." My ex-husband responded, "Don't be so harsh. I was just worried about our daughter growing up without a father. If you were worried about our daughter, you wouldn't have brought up divorce right before her exams. All you're thinking about is yourself." When I said that, my ex-husband fell silent. "There's no place for you here anymore." Finally, it seems like my ex-husband realized that no one is on his side. He left the house dejectedly. Finally, a peaceful everyday life returned to us. That's when Mr. Dawson said, "I'm hungry. How about we go out for something delicious today?" The three of us went out for a meal together, enjoying each other's company. It seems that my ex-husband is trying to take legal action against his first love. I don't really have any interest in that anymore, so I just hope he handles it on his own. My ex-husband quit his job because no one at his workplace wanted to deal with him. I have no idea what he's up to now or where he is. Afterwards, my daughter also succeeded in gaining admission to a national university. Now, she's attending university while also starting a part-time job, and she seems to be enjoying it. And now, my daughter and I can laugh and talk about that time as if it were a distant memory. Since my daughter also passed the exam successfully, Mr. Dawson and I are planning to have a small wedding ceremony. Soon, he'll be joining us in this house. At that moment, my daughter laughed and said, "That guy is really foolish, isn't he? To leave behind such a good daughter and mom? We are going to be a family of 3 from now on. We'll continue to live happily together as the 3 of us." How was it? Subscribing to the channel would be an encouragement for our production. Let's meet again in the next video.